Hello and welcome. Please realize this video by no means is something to be taken lightheartedly or as a joke. Through the last year and a half, we have dedicated all of our energy 7 days a week learning all of the wisdom that can be obtained through science, all religious practices, and through our own past experience within our existence. Within this video, we will gently start by opening our minds to the point of being able to distinguish the difference between the negative first perspective and the positive first prospective that can be found within our mind. By the end of this video, we will have given the tools to literally explore the two sides of your mind with our eyes closed. This allows us to train our brain to serve the higher being we are meant to achieve. Please watch this video without any distractions, and it is most effective if viewed in a dark room or in a closet with the door closed. We must caution anyone who is experiencing mental instability because this video will explain the experience of life in a way that has never been done before. Once viewed, the experience of life as we know it will begin to change. Please allow us to begin. Did you know that the sun and the moon are perceived as the same size because the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon? It is also 400 times further away from Earth than the moon. Now, from a numerological perspective, if we take 400 and put it into the unlocked Collett's conjecture we solved months ago, we get the result of 66.666. Now, if you Google NASA, you will realize that they have been established for 66 years and they currently have spent $666 billion nominally since the date of inception. Next, according to National Geographic, the hottest part of the Earth is the core. It's 6,000 degrees Celsius, the same temperature as the surface of the sun. Do we really think that that is a coincidence? At what point do we start acknowledging that space is literally a mirror image of our existence? Now stop and think about how accurate astrology is, how the moon phases affect the waters on the earth, or how during Mercury retrograde technology can face unique challenges. For example, software can be prone to failure or devices can be stuck on an endless update loop. We also are more inclined to lose and break devices, or they may stop working for no apparent reason. And the list goes on and on. Do we really believe that this is all just a coincidence? The truth is, science has been concentrating on going back in time to prove the Big Bang Theory is the evolution of everything. But when do we stop and recognize that we are feeding into our own self-created delusion instead of utilizing historical doctrines? Please stop and think. Even the word theory tells us that the Big Bang is a hypothesis. And if we simply Google the definition of hypothesis, it clearly states a proposition made as a basis for reasoning without any assumption of truth. But yet we have spent 66 years and $666 billion trying to prove that historical biblical doctrines are not truthful. Now ask yourself, how much time and money has been spent through science to prove that the book of Genesis is truthful? But science will tell us that their timeline disproves the book of Genesis. So let's look at time through the eyes of science. We do this by recognizing what science calls the space-time continuum. It is said because space consists of 3 dimensions and time is one-dimensional, space-time must therefore be a 4-dimensional object. It is believed that the continuum, because as far as they know, there is no missing points in space or an instance in time, and both have been subdivided without any apparent limit in size or duration. They say that there are not any missing points in space or instance in time, but this is because science does not allow for the 5th dimension, called one's consciousness. The absolute truth is time is a perception, therefore the speed of light depends on how conscious an individual is. Please allow us to prove this to you. We can all agree that we see yellow and blue on our screen. So first we must recognize the reason we all see yellow and blue is because of our past teachings referred to as the negative first perspective. Now, if two of us get close to the screen and start staring exactly at the point where the yellow and blue touch, we will eventually notice that the edge of the yellow begins to glow and then the blue will start doing the same thing. How quickly this becomes noticeable is dependent upon how conscious one is in regards to how their mind perceives light. Now let's take this test of consciousness to the next level. Once again, please stare at the exact same point as before. Only this time, after 10 seconds, the colors will disappear. Now close your eyes tightly and count how long it takes for the colors to reappear even though your eyes are closed. Some people will have to try this several times while others will see it instantaneously. This is because everyone perceives the illusion of life within a different time continuum. Therefore, we have just recognized science is non-truthful when it states that space is a four-dimension because our reality just proved that there is a fifth dimension. But let us not stop there because we have the ability to prove more absolute truth science has yet to recognize. Now, with our eyes open, let's look at this example again the same way. Except this time, after 10 seconds, we will close our eyes and we will now notice that not only do the colors reappear, but we can now recognize that the colors have changed sides. They've swapped. We will give a few seconds to allow this reality to sink in. Now that we are able to acknowledge that we perceive life from a mirror image, the negative first perspective, we can begin to recognize distinguishing differences between the two sides of our brain. On our screen is another example of how our brain perceives by the way it has been taught. When we turn the screen upside down, you will then see reality on reality's terms. Science will tell us that what we just experienced is an optical illusion, but the truth is we perceive life through what we have been taught instead of viewing life experience through the eyes of our spirit. Therefore, we are perceiving life from a delusional perspective until we choose to wake up. Please realize, science says that our vision flips images from top to bottom, but science is not conscious enough to recognize that the images also switch from left to right, creating a true mirror image. The reason for this is because the only time we see reality on reality's terms is when we are centered through our spirit. Now please stop and think of the words. Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness. The absolute truth is on the screen in front of us. If we recognize the negative within our existence, then we find the positive wisdom we gain from the experience. We begin to close the division between the left and the right side of our brain to the point that we can gain pure wisdom, pure light, and become one with the Spirit, and also it's referred to as the Holy Spirit. This diagram allows your mind to truly understand what is defined as infinity. Infinity is merely the space between the positive and negative perception. But now stop and think. What happens when you meditate or pray? What happens when we sleep? What happens when we die? Everything we know and everything we see is our perception based off what a non-conscious person has taught us. If we allow our mind to simply recognize that space is no different than our inward voyage from our mind towards our spirit, then the speed of light becomes trivial. By simply changing our perception from the negative first perspective to the positive first perspective, we immediately perceive from the other side of infinity. Please recognize how restricting it is when people who are considered the brightest minds of the world tell us that our minds cannot perceive infinity. This is exactly like a psychologist diagnosing a patient with PTSD instead of leaving it as PTS. How can any conscious person tell another being that something is non-curable or non-conceivable? Is that not the definition of an egotistical narcissist? Since the beginning of human existence, our minds have been restricted due to others, projecting what they consider to be their superior thought patterns. This can be seen in the revision of all spiritual doctrines, science, and especially now in this era of consciousness. If you have made it to this point in the video, then we would like to recommend utilizing this screen as a way of decalcifying your pineal gland. It is best to do this first thing in the morning or right before you sleep. As you continue to recognize the division within your brain, it will teach you to the point of being able to move the yellow and blue back and forth with your eyes closed. This is because your mind has begun to submit to the will of your spirit instead of your spirit working for your mind. At that point, you will begin to recognize synchronicity of your spirit and the reality in front of you. It is important to maintain a positive first perspective to continue gaining consciousness. On our screen is a recent example of conscious synchronicity. If you desire to find a reason not to believe in reality, you can find several reasons. But if we listen to our spirit, the absolute truth always shines through. Please allow us to give you another tool to recognize the absolute truths within the spirit. In past videos, we have mentioned before about looking up time in the Bible. For example, 2:30 in the Bible. Therefore, at 2:30 while taking a break during creation of this video, we Googled 2:30 in the Bible, and the result is on your screen. Please take the time to read it. And once we were done editing at 9:45, we Googled it again so that we could see the results. And those results are on the bottom of the screen. As we go, please allow us to point out, everywhere you look, you can find someone who is trying to sell you the ability to manifest wealth, or how to gain spiritual wisdom, or the best weight loss program, or the true meaning of life. The absolute truth is, a fully conscious person would never fathom charging for wisdom, because they know that all absolute truth comes from the spirit within, and nobody owns this. Our minds tell us that money makes the world go around. Yet the greatest spirits within history tell us the exact opposite. We're not saying that we should quit our jobs, but we are saying that becoming conscious and achieving our inner spiritual growth needs to be our top priority if we desire to reach the best version of ourselves. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have, because this video was created out of love for your inner spirit. May peace be with you.